we will be covering classroom engagement today. So the reason why I chose this topic, that I've seen some questions over the past few webinars of teachers asking how to get their students to pay attention and do work. So kind of go over, hopefully give you some ideas on how to help with that going forward. So just be sure, like a lot of these strategies, that I'm presenting, you will have to kind of adapt. If only all classes were the same, and there was one strategy that all teachers could use, but you have to remember that all classes are different. I'm doing well, thank you. Yeah, the weather is getting quite nice here in Korea now. Everything's all warmed up. Flowers have bloomed. Spring has come. Hopefully the season doesn't change too quickly, and summer and the humidity doesn't come too quickly. Yeah, sounds nice. Where are you, Valian? It's nice to be able to wear short sleeve shirts now. No. Oh yeah, the weather's good. Oh, see something. Someone's already using Q&A. Can't change. I can't change the name. So when you click the link, it yeah. So Marlene, I just saw your question in there. Yeah, when you click the link, you can exit out and then kind of sign into yours, and then click your link again in the email to rejoin the webinar if you want to get your name changed. Yeah, if you're worried about the certificate, we will be giving the survey at the end, and in the survey you will be able to write your name as opposed to your daughter's name, and the certificate will have the proper name for you. Let me check the time. Another minute or two. Oh, Osaka. I was in Osaka a few months before the pandemic started. Miss being over there. The Philippines. Yeah, I haven't been to the Philippines in a few years as well. If you can tell, my family is Filipino. So nice to meet you. Okay, got one more minute. One more minute. Yeah, greetings from Cambodia. Nice to see you. Tokyo. We've got a lot of people around Asia today. You're welcome, Marlene, or your daughter's name, if that's your daughter's name. Colombia, nice to see you. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, so good evening, good morning, everyone. So my name is Gary. I'm an ELT consultant here at eFuture. How many of you, is this your first webinar with eFuture? Just kind of curious. I know I've recognized some names, so I know some of you have been here before. Just curious how many of you, this is your first time joining us for our monthly webinars. Like Elsie, I know I've seen your name quite a bit over the past few years. So if this is your first time, just let you know, we do give certificates for the webinar, and we will be giving out the survey link at the end of the webinar. So don't run away too quickly. My colleagues will be giving the link at the end, okay? So today I'm going to be going over classroom engagement, kind of a trouble point for some teachers. In previous months during webinars, we've been getting questions on, how can we get our students to pay attention in class, or why don't they do their work? So I decided to do this webinar to hopefully give you some ideas and strategies, and hopefully a different way of thinking about how you teach your class. Okay. So what I'm going to cover today, so beginning first, what is engagement? Kind of go over what it means to be engaged, what it incorporates, and then go into what can we do. So going over the strategies, and then looking at those strategies and then applying them to the book. So engaging in the page, right? So taking some of those, looking at some examples from eFutures books, and what are some kind of strategies we can do in real time, kind of give you examples of what to do. And then, of course, I always like to kind of give some activities and ideas and kind of show you how to adapt them, because sometimes they can be very basic with just flashcards, but how can you adapt them to get your students more involved and how you can get them more engaged in the activity? Okay. So let's get started here. So what is engagement? So I have a fill in the blank here. Maybe some of you have seen this before. So what is engagement? To blank participate or become involved in something such as an event, activity, or game. What do you think goes into the space? OFR is very good right off the bat. Actively, very good. Actively participate, right? Not passively, so get the students involved. And then where does it come from, right? So where does engagement kind of come from? So to get the students kind of engaged into the class, we have to kind of figure out their motivation, right? The motivation to participate in the class. So there are two types of motivation. So what do you know what the two types are? Kind of quizzing you. Intrinsic and extrinsic, very good. So these are the two main sources or main types of motivation. So how we can get the students to get motivated in class and where their motivation comes from. Okay, so the definition kind of these two. So when we're looking at intrinsic motivation, this is something that is personally rewarding to the student or to yourself, right? You're doing it because you enjoy it, not because of someone telling you to do it. As opposed to extrinsic, you're doing it to, earn a reward, earn a grade, or, the students are doing homework because you told them to do the homework. So trying to get, for the most part, students kind of have that extrinsic motivation. They see their grades. Grades lead to, getting into a certain college, and they just look at the end reward. And then the intrinsic motivation, you kind of think about learning for the sake of learning, getting the material, when are they going to use it type deal, okay? Giving some meaning towards what they were learning and kind of passively get them to feel more rewarded just by learning rather than them earning stamps. Or in some cases, I've had an experience of seeing some teachers, if the students answered a question, they would get like a jelly bean. So that made the students, answer the questions, but it does ask you whether or not are the students actually learning, right? So kind of have to think about these two different types, right? So if we look at these things here, kind of look at which ones are more extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. Which ones would be more intrinsic, you think, out of these? I mean, all of them can be both, but for you personally, which one would be more extrinsic or intrinsic? So like going to the dentist. Hopefully you would imagine that they would be intrinsic, right? When you're younger, probably your parents force you to go. You don't want to go to the dentist. Ooh. Intrinsic motivation for cleaning your room, playing sports, good. Is it extrinsic to being nice to your mom? Maybe as students. Being at my presentation. How many of this is extrinsic? How many just need the certificate? Hopefully it's here to learn, right? It's intrinsic. So kind of just looking into like each task and everything and realizing for your students, what kind of motivation that, do they have going into certain classes and a lot of the activities that you do. Okay. So what factors influence engagement? So what factors influence engagement? So I have this thing here, this website. So kind of like doing a kind of a word cloud, right? So maybe I'll just type this in the chat. So get to copy paste it. So this is a website called Poll Everywhere. So I'm asking you the question here, what factors influence engagement? So if you go to that link that I just sent, you can put in your answers. So I want to see, just like in the chat, but I want us to, sometimes chat goes really quickly. Yeah, if you can try to, I think it doesn't hyperlink. So you might have to try to copy paste it into a browser. Unfortunately, it doesn't link in the Zoom chat. To activate. Yeah. Yeah, so you can go through there and kind of give your answers, and it'll show, show it on the screen, everyone's answers that you put. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Yeti. There's the one you can click. And put what you think, what factors do you think influence engagement? Kind of brainstorm together as teachers. What kind of things do you guys face when it comes to engagement? And then we can kind of go through these ideas together. Hopefully this works. Let me make sure. Yeah, you can skip, you don't have to put your name in. Student interest, okay, here we go, we're getting some words in. The person, interest, the students themselves, factor. Their interests, good. See two people put interests. What they wish, okay. The ambience, good, the environment that they're in. Put something. The resources, okay, what they're doing. Society, good. So the materials. So you see a lot of things, a lot of different things here. The environment, good. Interests, resources. Trying to keep track of all these. Responsibility. Curiosity. Activeness. Yeah, so there's a lot of different things, right? So how can we like channel all these different factors into classroom engagement? Curiosity, better. So communication, absolutely, collaboration. A lot of great words here. Very good. Okay. So these are all big factors, right? So let's go back in here. So if you haven't used that website before, it's kind of, there's different things that you can do with that. We'll use it again later. So those are great ones. Let me just check some more. Students, topics, interests, wishes, resources. Good. My mouse is going crazy. Okay. Yes. Hold on. Okay. I'm going to deactivate it now. Thank you for your answers. I think this was slowing down my computer. Okay, so let's get back to the presentation here. So now what can we do? So I have some tips and some ideas for you guys to kind of think over. We'll talk about each. So with classroom engagement, I think one of the big things you can do is just be consistent with your students. Build that consistency with them. You can surprise them every now and then, but sometimes they need that structure, to learn, making sure that the environment is consistent. Second one here, warming up the class. I talked about this a lot. When you starting a class, at least from my experience here in Korea, my students all coming from classes that are Korean, all the students are, listening and conversing in Korean and all their other subjects. And then they come to my English class. It's kind of difficult for me to think and have them, or difficult for me to expect them to be able to speak English, in a snap of a finger if their English isn't fluent. After learning Korean, obviously, like I can kind of empathize with them that you need some time to kind of flip a switch in your brain to start speaking another language. It's not as on demand. So giving them that rough time in the beginning to get ready for the English class and kind of get them in the mode of English class can go a long way. Build relationships. I think this is kind of a big one with your students, especially if you want them to pay attention and participate in class. Knowing certain things about them. I won't go too deep in these because we'll go deep into these different points in a second. Safe classroom culture, as you guys alluded to in the word cloud, making sure that the students are being taken care of in the class, utilizing technology and making things meaningful in the class. Okay, so let's kind of briefly go through these points. So being consistent, you can start as a teacher having a consistent lesson plan, okay? Making sure the flow of your class isn't all over the place and you're well prepared for the class, right? If you are kind of scatterbrained a bit in class and you don't know where you're going with it, that can affect the students as well. So you as a teacher before the class, making sure that you have yourself kind of organized going in. So one thing that I always like to kind of look at for teachers is how I kind of approached a lesson plan. So I've done this many times. Maybe many of you probably have been in my webinars and just like, oh, this again. But repetition, kind of drilling you with kind of the parts of the lesson plan. So kind of go through these together. So with part one of a lesson plan, where do you think we start? So we have these kind of 8 parts here. Where do we start? This could be a review for some of you. So when we look in, start a lesson plan, where do we start? The warm-up and review. Very good, Liliana. So warm-up and review, just like what the next point that I had, next tip was warming up the class. Start with the warm-up and review, right? You don't want to just go straight in and present something completely new and kind of risk a little bit, okay? So next one, part 2. So after we warm up and review the previous lesson, where do we go? Background knowledge. Very good, background knowledge. So again, part 1 and part 2 can go together depending on what activity you're doing or what way you're warming up the class. You can get the background knowledge together. Then number 3, Liliana, you're crushing it right now with all these steps. Servina, very good. Provide input. Very good. Get some other teachers in here. Providing the input comes next. Okay. So you're warming up the students. Now it's time to present to them what they're going to learn in the class and what are they going to practice. So providing the input. Okay. So next, after input, this is usually where some things vary. Some of the answers vary. So what comes after providing the input? Very good. Checking comprehension. Making sure, did they understand? Did they fully grasp what you presented to them? I've had some teachers go straight into, provide output time or review game. So you want to make sure after you present, what the students are going to learn, make sure they understand, and then you can continually progress through your lesson plan. So after checking comprehension, then what can we do? Provide output time. Good. I'll see. Very good. Providing output time. Now they understood it, kind of checked with them. Now they can start doing the work, right? Whether it's the activities in the book, worksheets, workbook, giving them a chance to practice, okay? Giving them a chance to practice. So you give them the output time, and then after the output time, the review game. We'll see, so here we go. So we have some review games. Not yet. Not reflect on class yet. Give students feedback, okay? So you kind of skipped a step there. So providing output time, and then you give them feedback. So say if they have, you give them time to finish a worksheet, right? You'd kind of go over the worksheet, kind of see what they got wrong, what the students are having trouble with, and kind of reinforce, if you have to go back, you can go back and kind of review some of the input again, if a lot of the students made the same mistake. So providing the output time and then giving them feedback. And then the next one would be review and game. If you kind of skip a step somewhere in there, once you get to the game, you kind of might have to start teaching in the middle of the game, right? So say, example, if you were doing a writing activity and the students had to write the full sentence or answer certain questions or some task. If all the students are getting the same, writing incorrectly, the sentence incorrectly, then no one gets points and it starts becoming less fun, right, for the students. So in the middle of the game, you might have to teach, oh no, the answer is this, because you have to reteach everything in the beginning. So making sure that the students are are producing at a acceptable kind of way, and making sure that they fully grasp what they've what you've been teaching them. Then they can kind of go into the game a bit, and that way you don't have to interrupt game time, the students' precious game time, to teach them again. Sometimes it might be needed, and there might be some classes where a game time kind of gets lessened, but it's very important for them to, at least into the next lessons and future lessons, that they kind of understand the certain inputs that you gave them then, right? And then the last one, reflect on class. So this one, looking back at steps 1 through 7 and thinking to yourself, did everything go the way I planned it? Did the students react well to the game? Did they react well to the way that they were practicing the worksheets? Did they do well here? How much time did it take? Just kind of thinking back and making small notes on what they did well, what you can change or what else you can try, especially if you're trying a new gaming activity with the students. We'll kind of go into these as well, like later on, but to see what they reacted well to, I think, is a really big thing, especially with the types of learners that they are, which I'll touch on later. So for me, an example of reflecting on class, when I started in Korea in the public schools, I had 8 different English classrooms that I had to go to, 8 different classes. And I slowly realized, certain games worked well with, say, class 4, 5, and 6, but not well with 1 and 7. So then I would kind of adjust, what activities I did to adapt for each of them, because, each class has their own identity, has their own personality and what they enjoy. So kind of thinking about that, after each lesson, right? And it's not something that you can expect right away. It's something maybe you start noticing trends with certain activities over time. So reflecting on it, making notes, you can kind of see the personality of your class over time. Okay. So here, kind of talking about where these steps come from the book and where they come from you as a teacher that you need to do. So the book kind of provides the input and the output time, and sometimes with the games, if you look at the resources available. And then as a teacher, all the other steps you kind of have to map out yourself. Okay, check my time. All right, so looking at the warm-up activity, so kind of some things when you think about it. So these kind of points here, reviewing previous lesson material, unless it's, the start of a new lesson. If it's the start of a new lesson, make sure there's not too much new language. You can take stuff from previous lessons that they can review and then kind of transition into the new lesson. Making sure the task is easy, doesn't take up too much time, 3 to 5 minutes. Includes all students and can be fun and stress-free, right? If you make a warm-up activity too difficult, in my experience, some students just kind of shut off from the beginning. They get turned off by having to speak English if it's too difficult, and kind of easily give up. So you kind of have to nurture those students a bit more, make things a bit more simpler. All right. So in previous times, something as simple as tongue twisters. Unfortunately, we don't have open mics right now through the webinar, but you can try these tongue twisters with your students. Just something light, nothing, not like a competition. Challenge the students a little bit. So see how many of you can do these. How can a clam cram in a clean cram? Whoa, I failed. How can a clam cram in a clean cream can? There we go. Near an ear, a near ear, a nearly eerie ear. Got that one. I thought of thanking you. And then you can just try to do it 3 times in a row. But I won't do that because I will probably fail again. So if you guys can try these with your students, just a quick, speaking warm up. Nothing too difficult. And then some riddles, depending on the level. Of course, some of these, if your students are super lower level beginners, might not be as easy to do with them. If you're, a lot of times we get some like secondary or higher level students that can kind of do them as well. So then how about some riddles? Let's see if you guys can answer these ones. So obviously I wouldn't do 3. We're all adults in here, the teachers. So probably leave it to 1 if you're going to do it with your students. But kind of a bit tricky. So number 1, how many months have 28 days? Very good, Charmaine. All of them. Very good. Number 2. Don't search these as well. We're on the honor system here. No Googling the answers. You enter a dark room. There's a candle and a lantern. You only have 1 match. Which one do you light first? Oh, you guys are smart. Very good. Can't get anything. Oh, we had 1. Someone said the candle. You're correct. You light the match, right? You need to light the match first. So you can light the candle and the lantern later. And the last one here, as a man was going to the zoo, he met a man that he knew. This man had 7 wives. Every wife had 7 sacks. Every sack had 7 cats. And every cat had 7 kittens. How many people, animals, and things are going to the zoo? So a little bit of reading comprehension. 1. Very good. Very good. Only the man is going to the zoo. Just 1. Okay, very good. Just the man. You guys are smart. You all get golden stars. Okay. It's going into the next point here. Building relationships. And I feel like this is one of the most important. I've already touched on various kind of examples of building the relationship with your students. So just getting to know your students, learning their interests. After learning their interests, incorporating them into activities, into your class over time. And then just overall understanding that the way that they learn. Okay. When you're taking notes, just kind of realizing, okay, this student, very quiet, likes to work by themselves, or, you know, student A and student B shouldn't be allowed to, you know, work together in a group. You know, you get those really rowdy kids. Kind of, you know, the classroom management portion of it kind of really helps with understanding the students. Okay? And then going into utilizing technology, you know, we've come from an age where we've learned a lot of various websites, programs, and things that we've had to use for online classes. If you guys are back in the physical classroom, doesn't mean that you have to throw all of that stuff that you've known and learned and used the past few years. So you can still incorporate some of those if you have the capabilities in your class. We do have, once you get this presentation, which I will share with you at the end, we do have, if you are still teaching online, we do have previous webinars that you can look at on our YouTube channel that you can look back on and learn some, you know, activities or learn some programs from our previous experts that have talked on the subject as well. Okay, so just utilizing it also gets the students' attention and all that. You know, engagement online is very difficult. You try to get the students to look at the screen while during your lesson, right? Okay, and then making it meaningful. I remember as a student, you know, going through different subjects and so, oh, teacher, when am I going to use this? Just giving them real examples, real situations that they're actually going to use it, especially for English, right? So personalizing the material for the students, give them the concept, incorporate their previous knowledges and experiences, and kind of survey it, right? So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to, with this subject here of chores, right? Of chores. So this activity from one of eFuture's course books here, kind of having the student and their partner talking back and forth about what chores they have to do at home. So going back here, going to the next one. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions. So the first question is going to be, so if we have that link again, so it's the same link that was there before. So I can copy paste that back in. So answering 2 questions, which chore do you hate the most? And then the second one would, which chore would you pick to do every day? So I want to see what's the most hated chore among these. So we have doing the laundry, setting the table, taking out the trash, watering the plants, vacuuming. And I added this last one because this was the one I hated the most as a child, polishing the furniture. So it looks like everyone is agreeing with me so far with polishing the furniture. Very tedious, right? Very tedious. So it looks like everyone likes to set the table. No one's voting, hating the setting the table. Oh, doing the laundry is coming in hot. Give a few minutes. So I still have 7 people doing this underway. 9 of them have finished. A lot have finished now. This website is free as well, if you guys are interested in it. It's called Pull Everywhere. Oh, someone doesn't like setting the table. The plants. So polishing the furniture is coming in. 37% of you. And then which chore would you pick to do every day? Water the plants. Okay. So you can kind of survey this as well. So this is, you know, the online way. If you did like kind of a survey in class, you can get the students with like stickers or whatnot. You can kind of do it that as well. So you still have 3 people, 2 more. When those last 2 finish, I'm deactivating. 1 more. And we are going to close the polls. Sorry for the last person, you couldn't decide. So yeah, we had 37%. Doing the laundry came in second. Hating most, doing the laundry. Probably because you have to fold it afterwards, right? It's kind of a long process. And everyone wants to water the plants. Good. Kind of interesting. Interesting. All right. So good survey. And now I know if can tell what you're going to make your children do when they have to do their chores on the weekend every day. Okay, so just making it meaningful. Okay, so trying to personalize it for the students. So now taking these things, these different tips, and going into the book. Right? So how can we apply these? So when I talked about building relationships and getting to know your students, a big one is kind of figuring out what type of learner they are, right? So I have these lists of learner types. So we have the auditory learner, the visual learner, verbal, logic and math, physical, social, and solitary. So auditory learners, the ones that, listening is the big part of it. They can kind of hear something, listen to it, and kind of learn that way. I will say most learners aren't just going to be one of these. So don't take this list as and then going to your roster of students and putting them all under one or one particular one. There's always going to be a combination of what they react well to. So when you look at your activities and the games that you play, kind of think about what they satisfy when you look at these types, right? If the student just likes to be on their own team by themselves instead of a group work, you can mix it up a bit. So it's not every activity is going to be in a group activity. You kind of get the students to be individual, or you give them a choice. They can be on a team or they can play by themselves, right? So giving them different, a sense of choice, some autonomy in the classroom. Okay. And then looking at the resources was definitely something that you all wrote on the word cloud at the beginning. So from your book, realizing what resources you have available to you. If you don't have the benefit of technology, looking at the resources from the book that you have, flashcards, worksheets, activity sheets, project books, even in some teachers' manuals at eFuture, we do have activity ideas, like a list of activities that you can do. So even if you look at a lesson plan in the teacher's manual, we give different options, right? That you can switch out for the one that's given, right? So when you take a page out of the book, engagement kind of comes, like I talked about, from before the activity and lesson. So if you're teaching out of the book, how do you get the students focused in on the book, right? What are some ways you can do this? Okay. So like we've talked about here, so different ways to build interest, working on predictions, bringing in cross-cultural things, right? As a foreign teacher, I can bring things from, depending on the topic, from how I grew up or from my culture, and then compare it to the Korean culture, per se, okay? Content-based, visuals, utilizing videos, real life objects that you can use in the class, and TPR just to be sure, do all teachers here, we know TPR? I had in some previous webinar that some teachers were asking what TPR was. And TPR is, movement, total physical response. So getting the students to move around a bit. Okay. So if we're going into, say, the beginning of a lesson, introducing the vocabulary, right? How do you present your vocabulary words to your students? What kind of resources or methods do you use for your students? How would you present your vocabulary, the keywords? Hopefully you do present to the students. I tended to pre-teach the vocabulary to my students. So before we kind of dove too deeply into the lesson or the book, I'd present the words, give a preview of what they're going to be practicing in the unit. So how do you guys present your keywords or key phrases? Flashcards. Flashcards, I think, are the main source. Yeah, it looks like on teachers' flashcards. Give introductions. Okay. Yeah, it seems like flashcards are the main source. It's very, good. Do you use word cards? Do you use PowerPoint in class as well, or like some like a program to introduce things? Chanting for after introduction, very good. Yeah, use PowerPoints too through videos. Okay, making your own videos. You can make your own videos. If you want to put the work in, that'd be something fun. Some book apps, okay. And so what I used to do as I had, if you have access to, the computer and, the way to present, kind of using like GIFs or GIFs, I don't know how people want to pronounce it. So we have this here. So we have these are our vocabulary words. Obviously they wouldn't know them ahead of time. So I would hide the word and have them guess. So what word is this? What is this? Go to bed. Very good. Go to bed. And if you can do this in a review way as well, go to bed. So it's I go to bed, we go to bed. How about he or she? How would you change? What do you add to go? He or she, what? Goes. Good. And then you can add the yes, goes to bed. Now we can kind of repeat with the students. So with these images, for most of the time, this is where kind of getting to know the students' interests comes into play, or you can kind of do that. So if the students, liked Monsters, Inc., where this movie came from, it gets their eyes forward, right? They're not, all the students are kind of eager to see what we add in. And then we have this one. What is this? So right before, or at least for us in Asia, eat. We will be doing this in about 20 or so minutes. Eat what? What are we going to eat? Eat lunch. Very good. Have lunch. So you can also present the students the difference. Pretty much the same way, but have lunch, eat lunch can have the same meaning. So then I eat lunch, we eat lunch. How about he or she? Eats lunch, and then you can present the S. Okay. So just kind of including some kind of fun images and things that the students like can, even if it seems very small, can go a long way for the students. And then predictions, looking at the pages in the book. Obviously the students can kind of see it. So if you kind of present it in this way, it kind of covers up what the language is. So if you kind of look at the first image here, what do you think the boy is saying? Good morning. It could be good morning. What are some other ways that you can say hi? And you can greet your friends. How are you doing? Good. So you can kind of go through. And then how about here? So this is Smiley the robot. What do you think Smiley's saying? Go into the second image. What is he saying? Can I join? Can I play? Oh, that would be sad if is looking at the rest of these pictures. If he asks, can I join And then the next image, the kids are leaving him. That might not, maybe not, right? That would be kind of sad. Well, I've got to go, maybe. So you can kind of get the predictions here, and then let's find out. Like, what are they saying? Oh, what time is it? So they've already been playing. So they ask, oh, what time is it? And good luck on your game. It's like, oh no, what's the matter? It's time for school. So here, oh, they're going home. They're going home. Right? So you can kind of go through picture walking with the students, get them kind of guessing what's going to go on in the story. Especially with some of the younger students, then they kind of, oh, I was right. And then, you know, kind of see who made the correct guesses and everything. So yeah, so they aren't going to school, they're going home. They are going home. So just going through different predictions like that. All right. So now for some kind of gaming activities, and I kind of gave the base game, and then as well as, you know, if I know what my students are interested in, how can you kind of adjust them? So for you teachers, just to kind of, you know, get an idea of what kind of activities and games you play, what are the kind of games do you play? See, and I just want to see, maybe we might have some of the same activities or so. Tic-tac-toe, okay. So how would you do tic-tac-toe? Do you have them ask, you know, do you ask them a question and they have to answer it, and then the student gets to make the first mark? Or how would the tic-tac-toe work? Make sure the time, okay, about 15 minutes. Tic-tac-toe is a good activity that you can do. Played that with my students before. Pass the sentence. Good. Bingo. Yeah, bingo is a tried and true activity. I tried to think of different activities so that you guys could take away. Okay, 2 truths, 1 lie. That's a good one. What's missing? Memory games. Simon Says is a good one. Hangman, charades. Okay, good. I don't see too many of the ones that I've included today. Sorry, I had an itchy. All right. Speaking board games. Board games are very good. The fly swatter game. We call that a slam game. Okay, good. So there's a lot of good activities you guys use. So hopefully some of these will be new that you can use. Oh, Karuta. I've never heard of that one. Guess Who? Good for describing, the describing lesson. Guess Who? All right. So some things here. Maybe I've, you know, done this before. So I Spy. What is in the magic bag? Very good. So the simple I Spy one. This one, low preparation game. You can find any image and get the students to, and just ask the students questions about them. So you can ask specific ones, like here, what animals do you see? So I give you this kind of I Spy image here, getting the students looking in. So what animals do you see in this picture? I will give you a bonus special prize if you can name this dinosaur and spell it correctly. So I see frogs, you see spiders, ladybug. What's this here? Mouse, good. Mickey Mouse. Octopus, very good. How about this up here? A bear, good. We have the bear. Swordfish. A fly, good. Fly is on the bottom. The dinosaur. Does anyone know what? Oh, Charmaine, you got it correct, and you spelled it correctly. It is a stegosaurus. Did you Google it? You're naming some great dinosaurs, though. Ankylosaurus and a Triceratops. Okay, yeah, very good. A virtual high five. All right. And the next question here: what color is the crayon? So you can give some simpler questions. What color is the crayon? Purple, violet, whichever fancy word that Crayola has created for the different shades of purple that are that are available, the students know. This one here, how many fives do you see? And the last one here, what single letters do you see? So you can kind of go through, give some varying difficulties of the question, and you can literally find any image. If you know what the students like, you can do the same. So, you know, a lot of students like Minecraft, just find a simple image of Minecraft, do the same thing. So what do you see? How many dogs do you see? There's actually a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5. I think this one's a dog as well, 6. Yeah, so there's, if this is a dog, unless that's like a sheep or something. And then you can kind of go through, ask them certain questions, especially if you're doing, say, you know, like this with numbers, if you're learning numbers and counting, you can kind of give very specific questions for the students, depending on the lesson, what they're learning, right? And it's very low preparation for you as a teacher. Okay, so as I Spy Boggle, I like to play. So this one can be kind of a simple, can be used as a warm-up game as well. So I'm giving you a number of these letters here on a table, and I want you to make some words. What words can you make with these letters? If you wanted to vary the difficulty in them, then you can give them specific topics. Just make sure if you do give certain topics for words that you kind of map out the words for each topic as well ahead of time. Rose, dog, grand, far, safe. Press. Do I have 2 S's? There is 2 S's. Dwarf. Very good. Water. Let's see who can make the longest word. So far we have 5 letters. Anyone can make a 6-letter word. Garden. Garden. Very good. So then we're at 6 letters. Grandpa. Very good. Up to 7. So you can do different ways here. So one more, you can do grandpas, since there's an S. Oops. Oh, but there's only one O. So with this one, you can make the rules. Yeah, if there's only one letter, so like here I have 2 S's, only then can you use 2 S's, but you can only use there's one steadfast. Is that right? S-T-E-A-D-F-A, there's 2 A's. S, oh, there's only 1 T though, so that's a disqualified. All right, yeah, so that's Boggle. So kind of, again, another kind of low maintenance. So this one here, catch the words. Actually, I changed the sentence, so it's actually not using animals. I forgot to change that. So catch the sentence, catch the words. So using the animations in PowerPoint, you can kind of do one of these things. And can you tell me what the sentence is? Oh, very quick, very good. Sentence is, he gets up early. Very good. So you can go into PowerPoint and kind of do these kind of animation paths as well. Okay, good. Pick 5. So this one also can be a nice warm-up. You can use it, review previous lessons, topics. So like pick 5 colors or pick 5 animals, pick 5 places. You can kind of do these, and then the students will kind of review what they learned at the same time. Okay. Think, pair, share activity. I always talk about this one. It's very good, and you can adapt it to many different ways. You can use it for vocabulary. You can use it for reading comprehension, writing. So you can basically, how you do it, you give a student a task, and you can give them a certain amount of time, whether it be 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. So they kind of do the task by themselves. And then after that, they partner up with another student, and then they continue it for the same amount of time, 1 minute or 2 minutes. Then after that, you come together as a class and you share your answers and your work, right? So by doing this, you allow the students to be more engaged with their learning. You give the students to actually learn from each other and teach each other. So the first part, think by themselves, they pair up and then share with the class. So think, pair, share. So some examples here. So if I had a worksheet, kind of bringing in different cultures, different languages. So these are the different ways to say eat in different languages. So you can kind of take a guess which language is what. So if I gave this to my student, this is actually more difficult. I wouldn't do this to like elementary students, but your teachers kind of gave you a more difficult challenge here. Let's try to figure it out. Number 1's Korean, good. Number 2, Spanish, good. Can you figure out the rest of them? And if any of you, this is your native language and I got it wrong, I did, I searched and this is the things that came out. I have Japanese, German, getting some good guesses. 7 English, oh, not actually English. I didn't spell it correctly. 3 is Greek. Very good. See how many linguists are in here. Okay, now I'm curious how many of you actually speak these languages too? Or are you actually like looking up how to say it? So you guys are getting some of the answers correct as well. So let's go through these answers. Spanish, Portuguese. So number 3 is actually Swedish. Greek is 4th. Japanese. Turkish was 6th. And then the last 2, Dutch and French. Don't ask me how to pronounce these. I listened to it once and I didn't learn. So, all right. So yeah, you can do it that way. So giving them, say the students 1 minute. If you wanted to say, for my students that were Korean, I could have all Korean words. Well, actually, I forgot to change the header on that one. Have all Korean words on this side and then have them write the English definition on the right. And then give the student by themselves 1 minute, then they can do it with their partner, and then you can kind of go over the answers together, right? The same thing, you can make it a lot easier. Again, taking back this image, Minecraft, think, pair, share. Again, asking the students something as simple as, what do you see? And then if you give them a worksheet, they start writing down what they see, something less challenging, very easy. Any words that they know, and you can give them 1 box, write in their own. Then when they pair up, the 2 students can compare, or they can look at the picture together and write more words. And then at the end, with the class, kind of discuss what they saw or what answers they wrote down, do it together, right? That's think, pair, share. Speed reading. So kind of a little bit of gamifying some activities. So practicing some fluency, giving the students an excerpt. So like here, this is The Princess and the Pea, one of the eFutures readers, classic readers. So just giving them something to read and then giving them a certain amount of time and then see how many words they can read in that amount of time, or how long does it take for them to read the whole thing. So giving them different goals and different challenges for them to do, right? And then the motivation here is improving, right? So it kind of giving them a little bit more intrinsic, right? They don't get a certain prize or anything. They're doing it for themselves to try to beat their own score, right? So in previous times, I would, give you guys a chance here and speak for a minute. So it took I think the first few paragraphs of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. How long does it take to read some of it? So they love it. Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you do this with your students. For those of you that don't, you can try to do that with them. You can just say, those stories or animations that are in the book, in some of your course books, you can just simply take the scripts and have them do it that way. how long does it take for them to read the full script, right? TPR reading, okay, so if we're taking this story, taking the script from this one, let me check my time, 4 minutes here. So just putting symbols on it. So they're still practicing the language from the lesson. So now adding a little bit of more physical movement. So you can have the students read. And then you can put symbols on it. So here, if the symbol is over this word, the student will have to do the action at the same time of reading the word, right? So you can kind of do an elimination style with this. You can do it so that all the students are just doing it by themselves. And if they, if they are incorrect or they can't do it, then they're out. So you can kind of do different levels. So they're adding on different symbols or on top of each symbol, increasing the difficulty. I'm sure they'll have a lot of fun as well, especially if they're just sitting in class the whole time, and then you kind of do some TPR at the end, get them a bit more, get them moving around, right? Listen and draw. So this one here, just have make a story, good for prepositions as well. So if you're learning in front, on, under, all this, you can make a story simple to this. And as you're reading it, you give the students, say, a blank sheet of paper, and they have to start drawing what you are reading to them. Right? So if we were doing this in this kind of seminar in person, I would have a paper presented to you guys, and I would read you my story. Right? Then asking for directions, good partner activity, a good, something that they can apply to their everyday life, right? If they say they get lost somewhere, when are they actually going to use this? So getting a simple map activity, you can make your own on Word or PowerPoint or something, and just kind of make these boxes and make a city, and then ask your students or ask their partner to make directions. I did kind of a big one where I actually went around the area of the school that I worked at and took pictures of certain stores and places, and the students, I would print out the picture and the students had to map them out and then give directions from the school to that place. So you can do it like that. And giving directions, if you wanted to just do as a partner, you just put a star indicating where the students are, and then have them ask where things are and then give directions, right? And then a comparison activity, again, including things that the students enjoy. When I did these lessons, I would include people, famous people that they know, that they like, and then have them write sentences and make sentences, whether by themselves or in a group. So, let me see how many people like K-pop in this seminar. Do people know who these gentlemen are? Yes, it seems like everyone here does love them. Whether this information is correct with their heights, I don't know, but yeah, it's BTS. So then asking the question, so you can ask your students, who's, if you're doing superlatives or comparatives, who is taller, the so-and-so and so-and-so, who is, the tallest, who is the oldest, and all that. So, I certainly got some of your guys' attention for this slide. So just imagine if you can get something that your students are interested in as well with this kind of activity. When you do comparisons, you can get that same kind of reaction as well. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's an important thing. So if you're getting to know your students, what they like, you can be certain activities, you can bring them in. So everything kind of has a time and place, right? So I wouldn't just, start the class and show this picture of them and not say anything about it, but, try to tie things into what you're teaching, right? So also if you're describing people, you can, do the same thing, okay? All right, so thank you guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening, a good lunch, and a wonderful rest of your week. Okay, so thank you guys and have a nice, wonderful day.